going on, YouTube folks out there, Facebook friends, people of Black Junction TV? My name is Odimir, and this is the Hard Black Truth. And I'm going to go ahead and get right to this because I'm just finding out about this story, and I've attempted to do a little bit of reading into the matter, see if I could find any additional information. Extremely difficult to find, but the PDFs are out there. Any of you would be able to download this and see for yourselves. This person who you see on the screen is Tameca C Drummer. Is her full government name, and the reason we are seeing her is because it has come to my attention, and I'm sure many others, and hopefully this story blows up online as a result of that quote-unquote Biden's law that Bill Clinton put into place and was adopted nationwide. This woman found herself being sentenced to life in prison after she was arrested for driving on a suspended license and finding marijuana in her vehicle, which ended up showing up as a felony. And they looked at this as one of those 3 strikes and you're out kind of deal. And she is in prison for the rest of her life. And her last offense wasn't murder. Her last offense wasn't assault. Her last offense wasn't armed robbery. Her last offense was the very nonviolent crime of having weed. Not even smoking it, literally having weed. This is 2020. You can say what you want about her. I don't know her past. One of the things I wanted to look into was her past. The reason being is when you read into this case, one of the reasons that are given for holding her for life in prison is her past. Now, mind you, this woman is barely 46 years old. She's spent a good portion of her life behind bars, a significant portion, I would say. One of the things that they pointed to in her past was that she had an aggravated manslaughter charge under her belt and an aggravated assault charge under her belt, both of which she was convicted of, and it states she served more than a year for each. And just so you don't think I'm BSing you, it's here if you're able to read it. Drummer had previously been convicted of manslaughter and aggravated assault, both crimes of violence for which she served more than 1 year in prison. Now, I don't know if these things happened at the same time as part of the same incident or whether they were separate incidents. That I am uncertain of. This doesn't really give any additional information on it. We're just left with the facts, as they put it, that, this was a habitual offender, right? Based off of the fact that she had 2 previous convictions, which she served her time for. But what's interesting is when I attempt to look her up, and hopefully this changes, hopefully the powers that be are putting their ducks in a row and crossing their T's and dotting their I's, because when I attempt to look it up, this is what I end up with. I look up her name, I look up a keyword, I see something that pulls up that seems to show her name or seems to imply that they would have some information on her. You click the link, and then this is what happens. And at first I thought I was being a little bit paranoid, but I go to the next website that shows up that may have some information on her name plus the keyword that I searched, and then this happens. So I don't know. Hopefully that will change. Hopefully there'll be more information that comes out. I am certain that the powers that be, if they are aware of a growing number of folks inquiring on this, they're having to answer to this. Maybe they want to make sure that they get ahead of it. I'm not sure. Could be nothing, really. Could just be that this is an old website that was never meant to be up for that long, and I kind of try to tap into it and it's down right now. I have no clue. But imagine that. And for all we know, and this is the kicker, right? The way they talk about it, and I'll just be kind of flashing through. I'm not trying to give you a play-by-play, though I may read from what you see here every now and then. Uh, the crazy part is they speak about her so flippantly, as though, yeah, she's in prison for the rest of her life, but you know what, that's because of her, and she had 2 prior convictions, and that's that. We're not left with knowledge of, what the conditions were, what the circumstances were, how old was she, right? What actually happened? Was there actual evidence? Was there some sort of a plea deal that she had to cop to? Because there's so much crap that goes on in black society. And we find time and time again that black people, black women in particular, I won't even say black women in particular, but black people in particular, are overcharged routinely. They throw the highest of sentences at us on a routine basis just because, and they expect us to be overwhelmed by the sheer, just amount of charges that they pin on us, holding our lives in their hands, and they hope we just, bow out and cop a plea to something in favor of our quote unquote freedom. I mean, truth be told, we don't even really know if the reason she was arrested was legitimate. When I think back, and she makes a case, and she argues that, the officer really had no reason to pull her over to begin with. The officer didn't have any reason to arrest her for driving on a suspended license. The officer had no reason to search her vehicle. And she says that the officer may have planted evidence. Anytime someone makes that claim, I kind of take that seriously. Yet they view those things as though, there is no evidence. We didn't find anything. We investigated ourselves. We found that we weren't interested. Who's to say that there was body cam evidence of the actual arrest, the actual stop, the actual search and seizure? Who's to say any of that took place? Bottom line, she's in prison for the rest of her life because of weed. And we talk about the social justice reform that Trump has done. And then people will use stories like this to argue that we need to do more. And, everything gets politicized. But bottom line, I don't see how anybody in their right mind looks at the state that black people are in the United States of America and says black people, descendants of American slaves, aren't deserving of reparations, aren't deserving of being repaired as a people. I don't know what this woman's lineage is. She may actually come from a Caribbean or African background, right? She may have immigrated. Her peoples may have immigrated over to this nation to live a better life. Doesn't make a difference. They have mistreated her because she is black. Plain, pure, and simple. Had she been white, I have no doubts in my mind that it would have never reached this point for a judge and a prosecutor to say, hey, you know what? She was convicted of manslaughter in the past. We let her serve less than 2 years, right? They said she served a year for each. Like, she did less than 5 years and someone died, apparently. We don't know under what circumstance or what role she played in all of this, but you're hitting her up with these felonies. And, now she gets pulled over for driving on a suspended license. And they found weed in the car, and they're just like, she did some bad things in the past, so let's put her in jail for life. This is happening in the year 20. Well, I won't say 2020. This happened after the year 2000. I want to say this was during Obama's watch. I could be wrong. Interesting to note, though. Interesting to note. So looking back on this, it looks as though the incident took place during the Bush years. The affirmation, basically them saying, bump your appeal, you stay in your ass in jail for the rest of your life. That happened during the Obama years. And this is the danger that we have when we allow folks like Roland Martin, which it kills me now that I have this new channel. I noticed that if I'm watching from someone else's page, watch one of my videos, after I play, Roland Martin comes up. No, this is not the type of media that I'm trying to present. I'm not trying to give you a Roland Martin style media. I'm not trying to do none of that stuff. At all. At all. I'm trying to keep it as 100 as I can and be as reasonable as I possibly can while I'm at it. But what's happened to this woman, the fact that she's been railroaded the way she has, that's unacceptable. And I'm sure all of you who are listening to me right now believe that this is unacceptable as well. You know what the killer part to all of this is? She is but an example of what has been taking place. And if we really wanted to, Kim Kardashian going up there and talking to Trump, what she's done was barely scratch the surface. You ever had one of those scratch and sniff pictures and I don't know, you get the one that smells like shit? Excuse my language. But that's what Kim Kardashian did. She scratched the surface of that picture and had you sniff it and you said, ew. Meanwhile, beneath that paper that she held you is an entire pile of shit that you can't see because she's holding that paper in front of you, if you pardon my analogy. You got folks out here acting like they're so woke. You got folks out here acting like we got so many wins under our belt. And while we do, in a certain sense, while we have brought up the awareness of our people, guys, there's so much work to be done. Whenever I talk to many of these young folks, they are not aware of situations like this, nor are they able. A lot of black folks are disconnected from what's going on. They're not able to put two and two together. They're not able to conjure up the fact that reparations are owed due to situations like this that you see on your screen. They're not able to correlate one with the other. Many of us caught up in individualism, thinking, if me and my family are good, then everyone else, they need to get by the same way that I'm getting by, or maybe my grandfather or maybe my father left me a little bit of an inheritance. So, that means that they're good and all these other black folks, they just whining. They need to be like my parents was or like my grandparents was, and we need to get it. Or they need to get it. I'm good. No, y'all don't need no reparations. We can make it on our own if we just lace up our bootstraps and keep it going. You got folks, when you talk about reparations, they don't even know about reparations. Like, what is that word? That's a big word. I had someone tell me that's a big word, and just left the conversation that I was attempting to have with them. They were intrigued by the name that I had online on his website, and they saw the hard black truth. Okay, what you talking about, brother? Well, I said, what you think about reparations? That's a big word. What does that mean? I got, what does that mean? A whole lot. That is crazy. That is crazy. That's just how far we are removed from being able to seek our justice. Many folks don't even realize that there's justice to be sought. And myself, as a non-foundational American, non-foundational black American, on the outside looking in, I was born here in the States. I lived a black experience, but I understand that my presence here is due to the work of the foundational black Americans, the descendants of the American slaves and all that good stuff. Part of me sometimes scratches my head and wonders, do you guys really understand the position that you've been put in? And I'm ranting now, but sometimes I have to get on, some of these folks that talk about religion sometimes, because I get it. I try not to rag on religion, but there are times where you can clearly see that these are just one of many things that are used to placate us, to pacify us, but never actually takes care of the problem. We never actually have our issues resolved. This woman should not be in prison, living out the rest of her life, good or bad, because of weed. If they were going to give her life in prison, it really should have been for the manslaughter. Now, again, I don't even know the details of that. And I'm almost certain that if we actually bother to look into it, now I've been wrong in the past, but I am gonna go ahead and say this. I am certain that if we found exactly what happened to her, we would find that she got hit with those charges on some BS. We would probably find that the aggravated assault charges are some BS. Who hasn't been in a fight? Again, we don't know the nature of the situation. All we see are charges on paper. And that's all these folks saw when they saw her. And on paper, they write it out that, you know what? We don't even need to look into cruel and unusual punishment, because she has shown herself to be a habitual offender. And because of that, something as minor as possession of marijuana. Again, mind you, folks, this is something that they are allowing. They've legalized it largely. They've allowed people to use it recreationally in many cases. And in places where it is still enforced, it is enforced with what? A ticket? Come on, guys. And mind you, this happened in the great state of Mississippi, right? Then they just get over, I could be wrong, but then aren't they in a process of changing their flag and all of that good stuff? We got all these changes that are taking place. People, we have a significant portion of our population living behind bars as legal slaves. And in many cases, the reasons that they've been put in prison are questionable. Questionable at the very least. I've said enough. You guys let me know how you feel about this situation. I would encourage you to share this story, because this is a real story. This is a real person. Again, I don't know her from Adam, but I do know that for her to be serving a life sentence, for her to possibly die in prison, for being convicted, her final offense before entering prison, being possession of marijuana. No, if that happens, that is a disgrace to us as a people. And God damn it, I have spoken. My name is Odomir. You guys let me know how you feel about this. Holla at me. Peace.